Welcome, everyone, to the Viva Connections SharePoint Framework bi-weekly sync. My name is Hugo Bernier, and I will be the host for this call today. Our agenda today is an action-packed agenda. We have the latest updates on the SharePoint framework. We have patterns and practices updates on the various initiatives that we have. We have picture time with our together mode. So everybody get ready for that. And then we'll have the true stars of the day. We'll have demos with Luis Mañez and Nico De Cleyre, who will do some awesome demos, and I can't wait to get to that. But before we do, let's talk about some of our initiatives. We have a lot of initiatives here, and we can see the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community videos. We have LinkedIn group for discussions. We have tons of open source initiatives, tons of sample galleries, and more. And you can get to all of those. You can, of course, you can copy and paste all the URLs that are here, but you only need to remember one URL, which is aka.ms/community/home. We also have many community calls to keep you up to date on everything that's going on. We have a weekly call with Microsoft speakers, which is the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform call. We have the Power Platform monthly call. We have the Microsoft Identity Platform, which is also a monthly call. We have the Office add-in monthly call. And then we have the bi-weekly call, the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community, and the Viva Connections and SharePoint Framework bi-weekly. You are here. And if you want to get all the recurrent invites, you can go to aka.ms/community/calls. And the agendas for all the calls are published on social media, so make sure to follow us to stay up to date. Now, if you want to present on these calls, everyone is welcome to present. You can do some demos on some of the cool stuff you've been working on, and all you have to do is to go to aka.ms/community/request/demo. And we get paid by the slashes. That's why we have so many slashes in our AKAs. You can also go to the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community call, and that's by Microsoft speakers. And so this is where, if you really want to hear directly from the people who are working on the products, what's going on with the products that you know and love, you can join us on March 14th at 8 a.m. Pacific time. We'll have Waldeck, Garry Prady, and Dan Wallin, who will talk about very cool stuff. Can't wait to see that. Now, we have the Sharing is Caring initiative. Who? I mean, where? Where you'll learn to get started with the open source in the PnP community. To talk about that, our friend David.
Who are you? Who? Yes, you are the community, and we want to support you. So you may be wondering, what is this program? Sharing is Caring is a program that provides you hands-on guidance. That means that we are all going to join calls together, live and in person. Well, maybe in person in front of our own computers, but on Teams. And it's going to be not recorded, so it's safe space. You're able to ask any and all questions that you'd like, and we'll actually walk you through how to do a variety of these things. So, for example, next Wednesday, after the Power Platform community call, we've got a Power Platform Samples contributor session. And we're going to show you how to use GitHub, show you some really cool features, how to submit those samples, and understand that labyrinth and that landscape that can be somewhat confusing and frustrating. We've got PnP SPFx samples, workstation setup, some amazing stuff with VS Code. All these are getting scheduled for March and April, so definitely keep an eye out there. Now, once you do contribute, we want to recognize all the amazing work that you are doing, and that is with our community recognition program. This is powered by Credly. Yes, that same Credly that provides those badges when you get certified. So you will have all of your community badges right next to those that you can share on LinkedIn, share on Twitter, associate to your LinkedIn profile, put on the fridge. Mom will be proud, and they will absolutely, I guess I'm done. They will absolutely love it. And we want you to be recognized for the amazing work that you're doing. So definitely opt in. We've also got a Hack Together badge. So if you haven't seen that, then please check it out. Definitely get opted in. We've got badges going out all the time. So take advantage of all the different areas upon which we are recognizing the work that you're doing. And if you've got an idea for a badge, reach out and let us know. Hugo, back to you.
That was a nice Oscar moment. That was a really nice Oscar moment, Hugo.
And you're out.
Gotta get the music going or something. Yeah. And presenting the SharePoint Framework Award, we have Vesa. Vesa?
I clearly need to be really fast before you move forward. So let's go to the following slide. So, of course, the usage is growing all up across SharePoint teams, Viva, which are the main areas. And we know that during the spring, also the extending Teams extensibility to Outlook and Office is going to go GA. And that's going to then mean that you're able to build SharePoint Framework solutions for Teams, which are then extended for Outlook and Office as well. So really, really cool. Things are growing nicely. Let's go to the following slide. Quick update on the latest on the roadmap. 1.17 was released 2 weeks ago on the day we had the last community call, and that was kind of an initial release of 1.17, not that much details yet on it, but we're looking into having an ETA of 1.17 in early April, so it has been postponed, and the focus areas will be on the Teams version update, so we're making sure that you have the right versions of Teams at JS SDK, you will have the right version when you sync to Teams, and there's going to be updated versions on that, and of course a lot of investments on the Viva Connection and Microsoft Viva areas as well. Not forgetting about overall issue tracking and fixing and all of that across all of the stack where SharePoint Framework is being used. That's a quick recap on where we are. Let's go forward on the projects.
Awesome. Thank you, Vesa. Now, we have many open source projects, and we want to bring you up to date on the latest open source projects. So let's first get started with the PnPjs client-side library. So that's a collection of Fluent libraries that allows you to consume things like SharePoint, Graph, and Office 365 REST API calls in a type-safe way. And to talk about it, we have our friend Patrick.
Hello.
Hi.
So not a lot has happened very recently. I've been super busy, and our other co-maintainer is on some kind of a vacation, which is a thing I'm unfamiliar with. But we are going to get version 3.13 planned for March 17th. So we'll see how that version comes out on St. Patrick's Day. But we're going to work on issues and enhancements. We've been super busy with other work, so do apologize for a little bit of the lack of responsiveness on the issues list. But we will get to those issues and enhancements for the next release. Thank you all so much. Don't forget about our nightly builds. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Patrick. Bye-bye. Now we have the CLI for Microsoft 365, and this is something that helps you manage your Microsoft 365 tenant and SharePoint Framework projects on any platform, no matter whether you're on Windows, macOS, Linux, Bash, or pretty much anything you can come up with. And to talk about it, we have Garry. Garry?
So basically, yeah, the latest release is version 6.3. We've got commands across Azure AD, Planner, Purview, SharePoint Framework as well. There's over 30 commands in this release, so there's absolutely tons. So if you want to get the latest version, you want to get that from npm, use the @latest tag, and if you are using our Docker container, use the @latest tag on there as well to get the version 6.3. Check out the full release notes at aka.ms/CLI m365/notes. We've also got a really growing community on Discord. If you're not a member of the Discord, but you're using CLI for Microsoft 365, please get involved, join the community. We've just made some updates there today, and we're wanting to expand the content that we're actually putting on there. So if you're doing anything with CLI, that is the place to be. Please check out the docs, follow us on Twitter, and if you are using CLI as well and you've not been to the GitHub repository and hit that start button, then definitely please do that now so that we know that you know who's using it. That would be really, really fantastic. So updates on the Microsoft Graph Developer Proxy. If you're not aware of the proxy, this is a command line tool that enables you to test your applications when they're calling several APIs like Microsoft Graph, SharePoint Online, but any API that your application might be using. You can use it to simulate behaviors like throttling, simulate errors, and also mock responses. So you don't actually need to make a call to, let's say, the graph or to your backend, custom backend that you've created. The proxy can sit in between and provide those responses. So 0.5 is out. You can get the latest version there, aka.ms/graph/proxy/download for the latest release. And what is in the new release? We have a recording mode, so you can record all the activity that runs through the proxy and provide an execution summary on that as well, so you can see which requests were failed, which were successful. We've made a slight adjustment to the name of the executable, so now you don't have to put the full name in. You can just put 4 characters MGDP in there and launch the proxy, as well as various other bug fixes and internal improvements. We've got the next version coming at the end of March. We're planning to upgrade to .NET 7. We're looking for CI/CD and Playwright support as well, so you can combine proxy with UI testing, and also guidance for rate limiting and paging as well. And that's it. Back to you, Hugo.
Thank you. We have a collection of reusable SPFx controls that you can actually use in your SPFx solutions. And to talk about it is the amazing Alex.
Thank you, Hugo. So we finally made a release. So we are on 3.13 for React controls, and for property controls 3.12. For React controls, we have new upload files control that you can see on this slide. We also have tons of enhancement for both libraries, actually. And thanks to all the contributors who made these releases so great. More information, as always, in the these URLs for the repos and in the Twitter, which is not so popular, but still. That's all I have. Back to you, Hugo.
Thank you, Alex. And to talk about Viva Connections Toolkit for Visual Studio Code, we have Dear Vesa.
Excellent, I'm back. So we have the latest version released today, and that's 0.4.1. And this is the extension which is encapsulating or abstracting SharePoint Framework 1.16.1 and CLI for Microsoft 365. So basically making it easier for you to create Viva Connection tooling with additional guidance, references, and documentation, and all of that stuff. And it actually works in any SharePoint Framework solution. So you don't necessarily need to remember what are the gulp commands. You can just click from the tasks to make things happen. And we are just about to release a series of 8 videos in the YouTube channel, which is really focusing on getting started with Viva Connection Toolkit, VS Code extension. Thank you, Hugo and David, on helping those videos with me. So check that out. We'll promote those in social media within upcoming days.
Thank you, Vesa. We have a PnP modern search library, which is something that allows you to it's a series of web parts. If I could speak, what would I say? It's a series of web parts that allows your SharePoint super users, your administrators and developers to create highly flexible and personalized search-based experiences in minutes. We have tons of questions on GitHub. The usage is growing. We are now at version 4.8, and we'd like to thank all those who contributed. We have an update to SPFx 1.15.2. And we are now supporting actionable adaptive cards like Viva, which is amazing. And we encourage you to go look at the release notes for all the fixes and features. On the SPFX sample sides, we have 2 repositories in GitHub that allows you to share extension samples and web part samples. And we have tons of new updates. We have the latest all Microsoft 365 groups and teams with SPFX by Alison Collins. She's updated it recently to fix some bugs and added a new card style, which is great. We've added the Search Conversations tab, Teams tab web part by Siddharth Vagesha, who has made it possible for you to find actual conversations in Teams in a really easy way. We have an update to the Chat GPT app, which has been updated to the latest model, the Chat GPT 3.5 Turbo API by João Mendes. Dan Toft has created a new web part called Quick Links, which is a really cool example of creating, well, first of all, a kind of a drag and drop interface with tiles. But another really cool feature is the dynamic property panes that update based on what you select. We have an update to the advanced, application. Oops. Teams is really giving me troubles today.
Just use your own words, Hugo. Use your own words. It's okay. So
that's right. I might have to resort to interpretive dancing. So we have the application secrets exploration by Amory Thomas, which has been updated. Advanced page properties by Valeras Narbutas, and Twitter web part by Rashmi Oklu. They have all been updated to SPFX 1.16. And we have a new multilingual SharePoint page summarization with OpenAI API and Microsoft Graph Pages API, which, again, AI is a big topic these days, and it's a fantastic sample by Anup Tati. And on the SPFx ACEs, we have David to talk about the latest samples.
Yes, thank you, Hugo. So we've got a couple of ACEs to discuss today, adaptive card extensions as we lovingly know it. The first is Daily Insights with Chat GPT by Siddharth. So this is a really, really cool, of course, topical ACE that we can take advantage of. You can see you can do things like quote of the day, today in history, grammar tip of the day, which I need every day, motivational quote, life hack, health tips, some very cool things to be able to learn some more information by the hands of Chat GPT. We've got an upgrade to the Join New Teams. That's an upgrade to SPFx 1.16.1 by Amory, so thank you for that. Love new samples. We're trying to get them processed as fast as possible. Don't hesitate to reach out if you got any questions. You can see more at ak.ms/SPFx-aces, and you get a badge. So definitely take advantage. Hugo, back to you in the booth.
Fantastic. And now it's time for the optional picture time. And I believe Vesa will be taking over the screen. Yes, or... Oops.
That is correct. That is correct. I just need to again find the right screen. Hopefully it's that one. It seems to be that one. And then I will move you all in here. And we're going to do a bit different scene. I think we like this one better, or at least I like that one better. And hopefully we'll get a bit more non-pixelated stuff here. Let's wait for a while. Oh, it's getting better. It's getting better. Let me wait. Not yet. Not yet. Wait. We still have 50 seats, few seats to fill in. Not yet. Not yet. Hugo, don't move on the back. Don't move. Come on. Not yet. A few more. Okay, I will put the recording on and we can see where we actually move forward. Excellent. And here we go. Let's do some hand waving, everybody. Thank you once again for joining on the call. Good to see you on the back. Awesome stuff. Good to see a lot of familiar faces coming in here. Excellent. Thanks, everybody. We'll grab a GIF animation out of that. So thank you. Let's get to the actual stars of today.
Fantastic. Let me share again so we can have the slide. There you go. All right. So now on to the demos. And our first demo is by Luis Mañez, building an SPFx solution to create an AI-generated images with DALL-E API. Super excited. Can't wait to see that. Luis, are you ready?
Thank you, Hugo. Okay, in this sample, I'm going to show you how we can use the DALL-E image generator API from SPFx, from a SharePoint web part. First of all, a very quick about me. My name is Luis Mañez. I work as a chief architect at ClearPeople, a UK-based company, although I'm working from Spain. I'm Microsoft MVP in M365 development and also a usual contributor in this amazing community. You can find me in social network as Luis Mañez, so feel free to ping me. I'm always happy to chat. Okay, I'm sure we all know, but just in case, DALL-E 2 is an AI system that can create images from a description in natural language. And actually, it has 4 main features. The most well-known for sure is the image generation. So you can enter a text description and it generates an image. So you say something like an astronaut riding a horse in a photorealistic style, and you get an image of an astronaut and kind of a horse. And also, the second main feature is that you can expand an existing image. So you can post any image and say what you want, and the service is going to give you an expanded image. Also, you can create an edit of an existing image. So you can say something like, in this area, I want to fill the image with this object or whatever, and you get the image edited. And finally, it allows you to create a variation of any specific image. There's currently a service in Azure, the Azure OpenAI, but I'm not using it in this sample because even if it's already in GA, you need to register in Microsoft, and Microsoft needs to approve in order to use the service, and that's not my case yet. So I'm using the OpenAI service directly. And this is the billing model for the OpenAI. This is not for free. I mean, when you create your account, likely you're going to get some free credits. I think this is still working that way. But after that, you obviously need to pay, and you're gonna pay per image generated in this case, and also per the resolution of that image. There's currently 3 support resolutions. So regarding the resolution and the image, you're gonna pay. As I said, you need to create an account in the OpenAI portal and configure a billing method as well. And after that, you need to generate an API key. And once you have the key, you're good to go, and you can call the API. If you want to generate an image using the DALL-E API, you're gonna need to do a post request to API openai.com v1 images generations. And in the body, you need to include the text description of the image. The maximum length is 1,000 characters. The number of images you want to generate, the maximum is 10 images in one request. Also, the size of the images. You have 3 options, like small, medium, or large, let's say. And also the response format. It can be a URL or a base64 string. So you can get a public URL with the generated image, or a base64 string. And also you can send a user, which is any string that identifies your end user. It's used internally by the service to monitor and detect abuse. So let's see it in action. I want to show you first using just Postman. So in here in Postman, you can see I'm doing a post request to the image generation URL. So in the body, you pass the text as a prompt. I want to generate a couple of images, the small size, the response format URL, and any string as a user. So I'm passing the header the API key. If everything goes fine, yeah, here we have the 2 different images that, by the way, if you take a look to the URL, it looks like an Azure storage URL, right? So, well, if you click in the image, and yeah, also there's another request here, so you just can see the result in the case that you are asking for a base64 data in the response. So this is the image in base64 format. Okay, let's jump into the web part. So web part is running in the local workbench currently. So let's enter an image description. So I have here some prompts. Let's save some money. So let's generate a couple of images, and in the small size. So we click on generate images, and hopefully we should get a couple of images. Yeah, an old painting by Mañez of a humanoid robot playing chess. Very nice. And also you can click on the image, and the image is saved to the documents library. So we can open the image, and if we go to the document library, it should be there. Yeah, it is. So, well, you can imagine a marketing person with this web part generating multiple images, storing in SharePoint, and then creating content pages using these images. I think it's something that actually at some point it would be integrated in SharePoint out of the box. So this is how the web part goes. So let me jump back into the slides. Let's take a look to the source code. These are the couple of calls that I had in Postman, so hopefully you can see it a bit better here. But anyways, it's just a call, a post with the different data in the body, and what you get in result with the URL images or base64. So first of all, I've just created a couple of classes for modeling the image request and response. So in the request, you can see I have the prop, the number of images, size, and response format. And also the same for the response with the different images in an array. And in my case, I'm using the base 64 because actually when using the URL format, I wasn't able to change the image source attribute when getting the response from the API. I don't remember exactly, but it was something blocking it from the browser. So the solution was to use the base 64 string, and this is what I'm doing. And now there's a service class. This is the class that is actually dealing with the DALL-E API and also the SharePoint. So I'm using dependency injection. So I'm using the service scope, and also I'm using the HTTP client from SPFx to call the API. And you can see here the different imports from the awesome PnPjs library to deal with SharePoint in order to save the images. So just a couple of methods: generate images and save the image to the document library. In the case of the service, in the constructor, again, I'm just resolving the different services from the DI container and also configuring the PnPjs. And as you can see, the save image to the site assets library is just using PnP. So I'm getting the documents library and adding the file. And after that, I'm just getting the full URL of the image stored in SharePoint. And the main method for generating the images when calling DALL-E is this one. So I'm configuring the headers with the API key as the authorization is using the authorization header. And I'm doing the post request to the URL and sending the image data that I want to get. And then I'm just returning the array of the different images. Now we are already in the SPFx web part. So in the onInit method, I'm configuring all the DI stuff with the service scope and also the PnP and my service, which is passed to a React component. In the React component, we have a bunch of Fluent UI controls for all the UI, the text area, and slider, and so on. And then we have here the method that is getting the request using the service. Nothing too fancy here. And finally, this is the code that is getting the URL of the base 64 image and rendering in the screen. The interesting part here is that I'm converting the base 64 string to a blob in the browser and getting the URL. These are these 3 lines on here. And to convert the base 64 string to blob, I'm just using a third-party package installed using npm, which is called blobutil, which actually has quite a few utilities around blobs. So a really good one. And that's actually everything regarding the code. The sample is already available in the SPFx GitHub repository, so you can download and use it and give it a try and let me know any issue. And that's all. Thank you very much for having me today. Back to you, Will.
That's a fantastic sample. Thank you, Luis. I just remember, everyone, with great power comes great responsibility. Make sure to use your DALL-E AI API responsibly. Now let's move on to our next presenter, Nico. Nico is going to talk about building AI integration for Microsoft 365 using Chat GPT and SPFx solutions. Nico, are you ready?
Yes, I am ready. So I'm going to talk about the Chat GPT SPFx web part today. First, a little introduction about myself. So I'm Nico De Cleyre, father of 2 daughters. And I started my career as a SharePoint developer way back in September 2010. So for 8 years, I dove deep into the world of backend development. But then something amazing happened. I discovered the world of client-side development by jumping into SharePoint Framework. So thanks to SharePoint Framework, I evolved more into an M365 developer. So now I just develop within SharePoint, not just in SharePoint, but also in Azure Power Platform and much more. There's also always something new to learn. I work at Ordina, Belgium. It's actually a Dutch, a Netherlands-Belgium company. And you can always reach out to me on my website or one of my socials. So today I'm going to talk about the Chat GPT web part. Chat GPT is quite popular these days, and it takes searching for an answer to a certain question to a whole new level. The idea was therefore to integrate Chat GPT in an SPFx web part so that people could use this as a search mechanism towards the internet within their Microsoft 365 environment. But enough talk, let's jump into a live demo. Before we can start using the ChatGPT web part, there are some prerequisites that we need to do. First of all, we need an OpenAI key. OpenAI provides access to its AI models and tools through an API that requires an API key. The OpenAI API key is a unique identifier that grants access to the OpenAI API, allowing developers and researchers to use OpenAI's powerful artificial intelligence models in their own applications and research projects. To obtain an API key, you typically need to sign up for an API account and provide some information about yourself. But once that you've been approved, you can generate an API key that can be used to authenticate your API request. So you can create and retrieve a key by going to platform.openai.com. And once you're logged in and you click on your account at the top right, you will see that a menu will appear. And here you click on View API Keys. In this screen, you can click on Create a new secret key, and it will generate a new key for you. Save it somewhere, because after that, it will no longer be shown for security reasons. An API key is personal, so never share it or use it publicly as it could be intercepted. I'll show you later in this demo. Don't worry about this secret key. I will delete it right after this demo. So next, let's jump to the actual web parts. Once you have installed the web part in your tenant and added it to a particular site, you will see it will ask for the API key like you see here. It cannot work without an API key. For this solution, I opted to store the API key in the web part properties. So if we click on Edit in our web part properties, you see that it will ask for an API key. Here I paste my API key and you will see that the screen changes right after it. We save it and now we can use the web parts. You notice that I use the web parts, but you could also use for another method outside SharePoint Framework or stuff. So next, I can start asking questions against ChatGPT, like for instance, what is the Microsoft community call and why is it so fun to attend? Ask ChatGPT. Now we have to wait a little while because now it's retrieving the answer. So here there's no why. But once you ask the ChatGPT web part, you see it gives you an answer. After that, you can ask a new question, like for instance, what is football? It's an amazing sport, but I'm just going to ask ChatGPT about an explanation for this. And you will see it will add the answer just like a sort of chat in this web part. It holds all the answers. If you later on want to start over and clear all the answers, you can just clear all the answers and you will see it will be cleared. One thing I noticed is that there's an API that we use for this SharePoint Framework web part. But I noticed that the answer differs a little bit from the answers you get from the actual Chat GPT. That's because the Chat GPT uses a slightly different API, so there seems to be a little difference in the answer that you get, but still you get pretty cool answers. So how does it work? Let's dive into the code a little bit. First of all, like I already said, I use the web part properties to store the API key. This one is sent to the TS file, to the components file actually. And in the components file, there are two important stuff. For this solution, I used the OpenAI npm package. It's just a package that you can install, which you can find in here. So you just have to do npm install OpenAI, and it just installs the package for you. And with that package, you can then use the API in your web parts. There are two important things. First of all, you have to define a configuration object. That's just an object that holds your API key. It doesn't do the connection. It just holds the API key for you. That's the first thing that's important. The second thing that's important is the API itself. So you just use ChatGPT.OpenAI and then the create completion. If we look into the possibilities, all sorts of functions you can use. You have the create an image function. You have the create completion or create file or stuff. That's all things you can do against the OpenAI. Here we choose for the create completion. That's just when you ask a question that it gives an answer. For this, it wants an object with some parameters, some options, and these three are the most important. First of all, you have the model. For the model, I used here the Text DaVinci language model, which is the third version already. And after that, you have the prompt, which is the actual question that you ask. Also, an important thing in this object is the max tokens. It's best to define it because standard you get like an answer of 20 tokens. That's not pretty long. So you have to give the max tokens if you want a longer answer for your questions. So that's actually the API call in here, and you get it in a response. And when you get the response, you can find your answer in the .data.choices first element .text, and there you can find your answer to your question. For this solution, I just chose to put every answer and the question that is asked into a state. So it holds all the questions and answers in the web part. So that's basically all about the operation, which is actually quite simple, I guess. I also wanted to show you how the API eventually executes. That's also maybe a nice thing to know. When you go to your network tablet network, you can see actually API that's happening. So, you see here that's actually API. So it's api.openai.com completions. And the important thing about this that I wanted to talk about is in the headers, you have the authorization header, which is just like the OAuth 2.0, where you have a bearer and your access token, but here it's a bearer and your API key. So that's something you have to keep in mind if you want to use something like this publicly. Your API key can be intercepted. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. As a last thing, I want to talk a little bit about the models that there are. There are actually 4 models that you can use the first one is the DaVinci model, like the one that we use in the web part. So that is OpenAI's most advanced language model. It has been trained on a huge amount of text data and is capable of generating high-quality text in a wide variety of styles and formats. It can understand the most complex ideas and concepts, making it well-suited for tasks such as creative writing, content generation, and even coding. That is actually the most used. Next to that, the second one, you have the Garry model. It's a smaller and more efficient language model that's than DaVinci, designed for tasks that require faster text generation with fewer computational resources. It is still capable of producing high-quality text, but may not be as versatile as DaVinci. Garry is particularly well-suited for tasks such as summarizing large amounts of text data and generating short-form content. Third one is Babbage. I hope I pronounce it well. It's another language model that is designed to be more accessible to developers and researchers who may not have access to as much computational power as it's required by DaVinci or Garry. It is still capable of generating high-quality text, but may not be as efficient or versatile as the larger models. Babbage is well suited for tasks such as language modeling and content creation. The last one is Ada. Ada is OpenAI's newest language model, designed specifically for natural language processing. Tasks such as language translations, sentiment analysis, and question answering. It is particularly good at understanding the nuances of human language and can help improve the accuracy and efficiency of NLP application. Next to every language model, you can also find the latest model that you can use in your web art. Like you see text -Garry-001. So based on your needs, you can opt to use one of these 4 language models. So that's all. Thank you all for attending.
That's a great demo, and it's very inspiring what cool things that AI can do for us. One of the things that we should talk about, though, in this demo is Nico has made it really easy for you to embed the API in the property pane. However, right, in a production environment, you would normally avoid to expose the API to the individual users, and that's actually part of the Chat GPT API requirements, is that you should not be sharing your API key. One of the options that are available, if you were to adopt this code for more production-ready thing, you could probably use something like Azure Key Vault, or one of my favorite options is to use the storage entity, which is available in SharePoint. So you have the SharePoint management shell, or the PnP PowerShell that allows you to set storage entity into your tenant, and then your web part can actually use just a regular GET HTTP request, or use PnPjs to go retrieve the storage entity API key, and that way you don't need to expose the API key to anybody, and the web part can still access it. Now, let's just to be clear, when the key is stored in the storage entity, it is available in clear text for people who are retrieving it. But again, there's a few options that are available here. All right,
Hugo, on that one, let's and Nico, don't stop sharing yet. I want to go back on a few things because we do have a few minutes. So let's. There's actually a really good point from El Mahmoudi Hassan, which says if you want to hide the token, you could actually hit an Azure function which is secured within your company, and then in the Azure function you will actually call the OpenAI API. So you wouldn't actually do this in a secured way, and then as the Azure function calling that API is happening in the server side of Azure, so to say, in quotes on the server side, there's no servers. Yes, there's servers. There's somebody's computer anyway, but nobody would actually have access on the token. You'll just hit the Azure function, and Azure function does the bypassing of the calling to the Open API. So that is a really good point on the chat, just to call that one out. Nico, any chance you could go back on the calling of the API? One thing what I wanted to actually call out, just for those who are not necessarily super familiar with this, we talked about the token, and we mentioned the token, and the token is basically something which you have a certain set of, you might consider this, I'm using metaphor here, but you have a certain set of coins which you buy for having when you subscribe to the APIs, and tokens are basically the complexity of the answer what you're expecting to come back. So you're using more and more of those coins which you have in your backend. So it's basically an AI could give you a, what is it? It could give you a novel, or it could give you a short answer, and depending on what are you expecting to come back, you don't want to overuse your allocation, so to say. So that's actually a good thing to call out. About the token, there was the token configuration in the code as well. The other thing which Veronica had a really good point in general related on OpenAI, which was, hey, so is it actually reliable? So is there a way to assess the quality of the answers? And that's a really interesting question. And this gets already to the, I think Hugo loves these philosophical AI IT questions, but it goes to the what is true and what is false. One of the challenges here is that, of course, OpenAI and AIs in general are being taught by the information in internet. So is the internet true and is it correct? Well, no, it isn't. So there's a certain level of, at least, well, there's a classic storyline, at least in Finland, there's a explicitly taught in the school for kids to be cautious about the internet information what you're reading. So you need to understand where the information is coming from. And just watching on the OpenAI responding back, you don't actually know what is the reference of the information and where did it come from. And that's something what Bing is doing based on, if anybody has access on the Bing, they will actually reference back, this is my answer because of these reasons. Now, my take on this, I'm going to take 20 seconds on this still and then let anybody else to elaborate. My take on this is that we're just seeing the first steps of the AI, and the first step was actually people innovating and starting using things. This thing goes forward so fast that within 6 months, within 12 months, I would not be surprised that as part of this OpenAI API call or Azure OpenAI API call, which will be evolving as well, you would actually get the references back. So the answer will be based on the information which we gathered from these sources. And then, of course, it's still up to the reader who's getting the information to evaluate, are those reliable sources or are those not reliable sources? And that's a really hard thing nowadays in the internet for sure.
Yeah, I'll even add on to that, Vesa, that Hugo and I were doing some testing with it, and you really need to validate the accuracy overall, because even with things that seem simple like math and dates, we were asking it to provide a schedule for something, and it for April, and it did for 2022. So it gave us exact dates and schedules for 2022. So even things that may seem obvious to us as humans, it's not necessarily obvious to the machines. But don't tell them I said that.
Yeah. Yes. Let's not tell the machine. But again, we are only seeing the early steps, where we are heading with all of this. So most likely, all of these things and concerns will be for sure addressed. It's almost the same. I think we had a discussion with one of the partners earlier today in the partner interviews, or let's say recurrent interviews we're doing, that he was saying that he compares this to the same as the 2010 or 2012 when Microsoft introduced the cloud on Microsoft 365. It wasn't widely used yet. It wasn't as powerful as on premises, but everybody knew that within 5 to 10 years, it's going to be delocation because more and more innovation happens in cloud. So we're kind of in this similar situation with OpenAI, not OpenAI, with AI in general, which says we are in early stages and we'll see where we will be within 5 to 10 years. By the way, there's a good cartoon now, put it on the chat for related on that one. But again, different references. It's an interesting discussion point for sure, and where we are and how things are evolving incredibly fast.
Yeah, I actually searched ChatGPT for the show that David and I are doing, Power Platform Connections, and it said that the hosts are both entertaining and charming. So it's obviously wrong. But all right. So with that, let's wrap up the call. Again, thank you for our both presenters, Luis Mañez and Nico De Cleyre, to talk to us about both topics happen to be about AI today, and I think it was very enlightening. I'd like to thank everyone for attending this call. The recording will be available in 24 hours on the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Community YouTube channel. And so if you see that the recording is ready in the chat, don't click on it, because every time you do, it sends a shock to Vesa's chair. You can follow us on Twitter at Microsoft 365. There you go. Someone clicked. And at Microsoft 365 PnP. Our next Viva Connections and SPFx call is going to be on March 23rd at 7 a.m. Pacific time, and our next Microsoft 365 and Power Platform call is going to be on March 16th at 7 a.m. Pacific time. You can get all these calls at ak.ms/community/calls. And with that, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Cheers.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.